On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are discussing Strange New Worlds 103, Ghost of Illyria, right after these exciting offers from our mysterious random sponsors.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on two lifelong friends talk about their love of Star Trek. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
What is up, David C. Robertson?
For just a second, when you were like, when you get to listen in on two, it almost seemed like you were trying to decide what to call us. I'm like, it was like on two pieces of shit. Like,
That too. Whatever floats your piece of shit.
Yeah. What was it that
Here, it's mostly fiber. Sorry.
I don't remember what it was.
Really?
That the girl said. Whatever.
We're 30 seconds into the podcast and we're already doing shit talk.
I know. Well, I'm trying to get out of it. What did the girl with the short hair say to the guy on this episode of Strange New Worlds? Like, where she was like, "Whatever tweaks your freak." Was that it?
Yeah, whatever tweaks your freak, which was a strange thing. It was
whatever tweaks your freak, buddy.
Let's talk about Strange New Worlds. This is episode 3. It's about the ship is infested with a light disease, and they have to figure out a solution. And it's mostly focused on good old number 1 there.
Yeah, and that just sounds like, it's a light disease. It's okay.
That's true. Sorry, to clarify, a light disease as in it travels on the light.
Yes, focuses heavily on number 1, and the captain and Spock are trapped on this planet because of an ion storm.
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty good episode. I think if there was an issue that I took with the episode, it was that it needed a little room to breathe. Like, they're on streaming. They can go a little longer if they need to. And sometimes I feel like they need to. And in this case, I really felt like they needed to.
Yeah, there were a few moments that were really supposed to be big revelations. And I know, I think they're trying to be a little understated because the show is already pretty broad. Like, it's already colorful, bright. They're making big swings with the types of episodes they're doing, with everyone freaking out, digging for light. I don't know. It feels like they're going for big things. And so it seems like some of the acting is being a little understated. And some of the acting I feel like could have used a little overstatement. Like when Una revealed that she was genetically engineered, which is huge. Yeah. And then had a fight with Noonien Singh.
Yeah, Lon.
Right. Yeah. It is pretty great to see that inversion. Because, we all knew that Khan's ancestor was on the show. Likely, we were all thinking she'd be the one that was genetically engineered,
Yeah. By the way, I feel really dumb because I just realized that Lon Noonien Singh rhymes with Khan Noonien Singh. Just this moment, I was like, oh, I'm dumb.
That's very funny.
I was today years old.
Yeah, so I thought that was a interesting inversion. I feel like everybody was waiting on Noonien Lon to find out that she was somehow genetically engineered, and now so we know Una is, and that Lon hates genetically engineered people, even though they were close prior. So that was a little tension there. Dug that. But when she walks in and tells them, it was so understated that I thought they already knew it. She's like, I don't know. It was like, because I'm Illyrian. They didn't I don't know. I felt like there should have been some sort of, and I mean, I understand they're in a dire situation. They don't really care. They want to solve it regardless. They're Starfleet. They'll get over it. But I don't know. It just seemed like she revealed it so matter-of-factly, and then there was not a big reaction that I was just I was confused. I didn't even understand that it was a reveal at first.
Well, yeah, I knew it was a reveal, and I feel like it was not as understated as you just performed it. Of course, the way you performed it was borderline Norm Macdonald at the end of a joke.
Yeah.
Because, I'm Illyrian, right?
Exactly.
What, you didn't know I was Illyrian? Yeah, that's crazy.
I really feel like that was about accurate.
No, I don't think it was accurate. But it's tough because like, and I was thinking about this earlier, knowing that I was going to do this show tonight. I was like, I enjoyed it, but there was something there, and like I think it was funny because I was thinking about one, the big reveal that she's Illyrian, and two, either they killed the colonists or they are the colonists. And as soon as we saw them in the ion storm, I went, "Oh, it's the colonists."
Yeah,
that was not a shock for me, but I was thinking about like both of those reveals and how, for instance, like cranking it up, taking it to the other end of the spectrum, because that was also very understated as well. They are the colonists was very understated. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking like cranking it all the way up, you get the original series. Where it'd be like, they are the colonists. Dun, dun, dun.
Right. I don't think it needs to be cranked.
And then, yeah.
I feel like there's a medium, and right now I feel like they're kind of understating some of those reveals to the extreme, because they're trying to avoid that original series 60s television thing.
Yeah.
It's still okay to have drama without getting to melodrama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess. So I don't know. It almost felt, it feels low emotions to all the stakes that are going on when you understate everything. Now then there's this is the other thing they did this episode that I thought was kind of weird. You're talking about the two reveals. Also, we got the big reveal that Dr. Mabinga has a daughter in the transporter buffer.
Right.
That's crazy. It's wild. Mm-hmm. But like, it felt weird that they revealed I realize it's new Trek and they're trying to give everybody like a thing, some little characterizations. Everybody's going to have a little bit of a secret. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody has a darkness to them in some way. Like I think that's good. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think it's weird they revealed both these like both characters revealed big secrets to each other, and they didn't even really feel connected. It felt just kind of like it was connected through the exposition of the episode, not through the emotional way. Like it would have made more sense if she like, you revealed your big secret to me, you trusted me with your secret, I'm going to trust you with my secret, something like that. It felt like it was a strange thing to do. I almost feel like his daughter could have been given an entire episode to sort of unfurl that as a mystery. You know what I mean?
This episode should have been called Strange New Secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Mbenga reveal would have had more weight if, say, this episode came at around episode 6. Mm-hmm. And also, because, we needed a little time to get to know him. And also if they'd pulled like the slow reveal, like hints at it, like what is Mbenga up to? Like, end of the episode or mid-episode, like just little bits of things where it's like clear that he's hiding something.
Yeah,
and that would have been really. That's
the thing. I feel like they're sort of trying for the understated thing, which I'm not gonna complain. I think it's good. It's just like I think about other character reveals like that, where you could do some dark stuff with Mbenga. This episode, for the episode where you reveal his daughter's in the buffer, you could have him do some crazy stuff to like keep her alive without being able to tell everybody. So he looks like a saboteur or something. You know what I mean? Like he could be doing things like, and you're like, oh shit, Mabinga's but then you like reveal that, and it wouldn't even have to be cheesy or like big. You could just have it like he's doing certain things that make him seem untrustworthy. And then episode 6, you find out why, and you're like, oh, well, I get why he'd be working behind the scenes to do that. Yeah. I just, there were some missed opportunities, I guess. And not necessarily that they just may have not have wanted to do that, but it's, and I will admit that's sort of the J.J. Abrams like mystery box storytelling. But the thing about a mystery box, it's not bad as long as you have a solution to the mystery. Where J.J. Abrams often fails is he says the mystery is all you need, but you have to have a satisfying conclusion to the mystery.
I agree. So yeah, I'm liking Himmer. He is a dick. he's on the verge of not being likable, which hopefully they pull him back just a little bit, or like give us like we've had like very like character oriented, which I've liked. We've had very character oriented episodes. First episode was very heavily focused on Pike. Second episode Uhura, and now this one's on number 1.
Yeah,
I dig that. That is something I have missed from Star Trek. I love stuff like Data's Day, you know. So. I like all that quite a bit. I don't know where I was going with that.
No, I'm with you.
I lost track.
I think that's great. And what they're really doing well is they're doing good character episodes, building a character, while also giving us a sort of like Planet of the Week, which is fun. That's what Star Trek does. That's what Star Trek. It is a better interpretation and modernization of the sort of TNG aesthetic than I've seen yet. Like TNG did that exact thing. It would always be like a story, like a sci-fi story that you could remove all the characters and make it its own standalone book, and it would be cool. And then also something to teach you about a character story. And that's like what this is doing really well. So I'm not fully bought in yet, I feel like. And after 3 episodes, I feel like after the first episode, I was even more excited than I am now, which I don't know. I don't know why. I just feel like
I know why.
Tell me why. Explain my emotions to me, Dave.
Okay. I think that there is, because I'm feeling the same way, and I think that there, like, while I love character-based episodes, I feel like we haven't gotten to know these characters very well in the day-to-day situations.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, Star Trek Next Generation Season 1, okay? Yes, it's often lauded as the worst season. Deep Space Nine Season 1 too, often lauded as the worst. But by the time we get to mid-season 2, we start really getting into these like deep character episodes, and we know these characters enough and how they respond in high-pressure situations, what their chemistry is like, and we actually start caring. We have, it's like the DS9 writer said, you have to eat your vegetables first. So that I think we are missing our vegetables just a little bit. And maybe it's because, you know, we're almost 40 and we're used to a certain amount of storytelling, a certain kind of storytelling, I should say. Meanwhile, kids who are like, you know, teenagers or in their 20s are over here making fan art all about like one character they've seen once. Right. And they just love them, you know, unabashedly. That's true. And I'm like, I don't know why I should care about this person.
Yeah. It's the save the cat trope. Like I need them to save some cats. I need them to like do some things or have two things. Save the cat so I know I should root for them. And I need every character to do that individually. Or like prove their like loyalty to Starfleet or whatever, and like show that they're idealistic about it. Or give me a longing for each character. And now we have a longing for Mbunga. Like he has a daughter that he longs for, and now we're getting there. We're like, and now with this episode we got Una. Now we know she like has this fear of Starfleet finding out her secret, right? And now she's brought multiple people on the ship in on her secret, and that's going to be an issue. We know now that Lon and Una are going to have some butting heads because they disagree about the way genetic engineering should be done. Or allowed, or you know whatnot. Right. So there's a lot of those things happening here. So yeah, I think they're getting there, but I think some of that like understatedness might be part of it too. Like the fact that they're understating it to the point that like, oh yeah, they're just Starfleet officers. I think that my favorite episode so far is probably of the character stuff. I really like the Uhura episode. I feel like I really got her. She's like someone who longs to do something, and the Starfleet was her way to do something, but she just still doesn't know exactly what she wants to do in the world. And it's not she's like learning to love Starfleet and find her place. Like that's an interesting character for me. So we're getting there. We're building these characters. And I think now that we have some sort of groundwork, like maybe this is our vegetables. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that to some degree. It's just, you know, so far I have predicted all 3 episodes. Like I knew what the point was and where they were going with it. And it's very hard. I was curious when they announced this show, because the thing about the original series and about TNG, for that matter, is that they do these shows that are very of their time.
Sure.
Right? Now, they may have been like on the forefront of their time, but when I watch the original series, I feel like the Twilight Zone paved the way for that to some degree. Like where they would have these episodes where they're like, we're on the planet and the thing is seemingly this, but then, plot twist is this.
Yeah.
It's the same problem you have when you go watch an M. Night Shyamalan movies a lot of times, where you're just like, oh, the thing is there. That's the thing.
Right.
Big twist. It is treated like it's a big deal. So I'm having some of that issue where it's like, I hear her humming and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a setup for, how they're going to do this. They're going to solve the episode with her humming. And, oh, well, the fire monsters are the colonists.
Right.
And it takes away, and I'm not faulting them for this, because it is super hard. Like, you can ask freaking Jordan Peele. I haven't heard anything about a Twilight Zone season 2. So, when him coming back they have failed at doing Twilight Zone pretty much every time. The closest they got was, the 80s. And even that was like paled in comparison to how they did the original Twilight Zone. Like,
right.
It was so hard hitting and it was so iconic because we had never seen that before. But now we're so inundated with all sorts of storytelling that we don't know how to make something that really shocks us or gets us going.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't feel like they've really tried with these episodes to shock us. I think the Pike stepping in and showing the footage of our world and showing and inviting those people into the Federation, I think that was pretty shocking. Like completely ignoring the Prime Directive to like a crazy extent in a way, deciding it didn't apply and just going for it and being like, "Hey, we come in peace." You know what I mean? Like, well, we're the freaking aliens. Like we're here. Yeah. I think that was a pretty big moment. But other than that, these other 2 episodes, while they had mysteries that sort of unfurled, there's like no emotion behind the mystery. Does that make sense? Like,
I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like they're not. A mystery requires a misdirect. You know what I mean? Yeah. A good mystery requires like you to make your brain go down a different pathway and then to swerve back. Mm-hmm. And like so far, everything's just been sort of like, here are some puzzle pieces, and look, they fit together like they're supposed to. And like, oh, they have some sort of light disease.
Yeah.
And clearly Una's not affected. The answer is Una is Illyrian, like, yeah, it just, all the pieces just sort of fit together. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know.
It is convenient that they would be on an Illyrian colony when all this happened,
Well, it's not really convenient. I mean, you can imagine
it's convenient that she was Illyrian.
Well, the point is the disease was something the Illyrians had cured and had genetically engineered their people to be able to survive. So when she gets it, she's revealed. You know what I mean? So it makes sense that she would be the one that would be able to survive it, and that something on her own planet might give her away. Like, or it wasn't her planet; she's from a planet far away, but something from one of her people would give her away. That makes sense. But
the Illyrians are scattered and they look different sometimes, like, because they do genetically engineer themselves. Right. They first showed up on Enterprise, and they were quite different, but still genetically engineered. And I think they first showed up in some books. Like, I think it was Vulcan's Glory, maybe, but yeah. I'm just saying it's convenient that like the one Illyrian in Starfleet would be on the ship that goes to check that. But Star Trek has always done that. I've always been annoyed by it.
Sure.
I'm always annoyed by we're the closest ship in range. I'm like, you're at Earth. Like, you are at Earth. You're going on your maiden voyage. Bullshit. But okay. Fine.
Well, sure, but in this case, like as you said, there's lots of Illyrian planets, and so it's it's very likely they're going to encounter one at some point, and if she's going to be revealed, it makes sense that it would be through that. I don't think this has that problem as much as many episodes of Star Trek do. And for storytelling purposes, you often have to forgive that sort of like, we're going to have some coincidences. Without coincidences, there's almost no story,
Yeah.
So you gotta forgive a little of that. But yeah, especially in a galaxy when you have the ability to go anywhere. I felt like like you're talking about, you solved it, and like these things are the colonists. I just really felt like the whole storyline of Pike and Spock on the planet was super tacked on. Like, it didn't really interact with the other storyline much. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it made sense because, the fire monsters seemed threatening, just like genetically engineered people do, but they protected them from the ion storm at the end. That was like, and Pike at the end was just like, man, yeah, I mean, they saved me, and then you saved everybody on the ship. So, I think we're good here. Let me deal with Starfleet. F those guys.
Yeah, no, I hear you that there's a little bit of a tie together in the theme there, but I guess I meant like from like practical exposition storytelling perspective. They don't really cross over because they're not communicating, and so it's just a way of getting Pike and Spock off the ship, and then having Una have her moment to shine. But it almost felt like then let her shine. Like, I almost was like, let them just be trapped on a planet. You know what I mean? Like, it was like,
well, she did shine. Did you saw her when she was glowing?
She was indeed. I'm almost like, if you're going to have a 38-minute episode to really try to introduce us to this character, why waste the 10 minutes? It just felt like a very thin storyline that didn't
Was it 38 minutes?
Yeah, it was 38 minutes.
See, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree.
If they had gone like...
And that's with
45
credits,
minutes. If they had gone an hour, which they can do in streaming, like, you didn't have to spend a lot of money. Like, you could have literally had an extra scene in there where like Spock and Pike are talking on the planet and we see their bond grow, or we could have, had a little bit more with Lon or whatever. Just give us a little bit more.
I'm making a case for like, you could have had all this happen, except for Spock and Pike are trapped on the planet and we never see them again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're down there, like, we can't contact the captain and Spock, and then just focus on Una for the entire episode and let us like really spend time with her. Because I do, it just feels like it's just kind of like piecing this puzzle together. Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely not like, it's weird. I'm just trying to decide how I feel still. I'm like, do I really like this, or do I? Because I do, in some ways, I really like what they're doing here. It's like a better balance than any Trek in a while, I feel like.
I do think that they just need a little more time to breathe. 38 minutes is not acceptable for all these reveals, for everything that happened in this episode.
It's kind of like you're saying, like, they have all the time in the world because it's streaming. Where we're going, we don't need, time slots. But like, you can do anything you want, and they're choosing to go shorter than Trek has ever been. You know what I mean? Like, instead of giving us a little more, and maybe we'll find out that's because this episode didn't have much to say and it's kind of thin. And then in a future episode, they'll give us an hour and 15 minutes, and they just kind of like move that budget over to another episode that they're going to put more time into. But like, this one definitely feels truncated.
Well, I mean, it has stuff to say about, the, prejudice,
absolutely.
It's got a little bit of that in there. It's also weird to me that M'Benga would like keep that shit a secret about his daughter. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't you be like, hey, my daughter is sick as shit. I'm going to have her in this transporter. Is that cool? And then Pike would be like, dude, do what you got to do. It's your daughter. And
right. I wonder if there's some, like, I mean, maybe there's regulations against it. Maybe there's whatever. Just like the same reason Una hasn't told him when she's genetically engineered. Maybe we're getting like sort of a piecing together of this idea that like Starfleet has these sorts of regulations that maybe don't allow people to be themselves, and they need to be able to function away from that sometimes.
Which, I like the Pike and Spock storyline enough just because it drives home Pike's reaction to Una at the end. But at the beginning of the episode, he was like, crazy to think that people are still so hung up on genetically engineered people. It's like, so he was already cool with it. Like,
yeah. Exactly. It doesn't seem like there's a big growth moment there. It's just, and that may be another problem I have with the show is that like Pike seems, and this is what I loved about him on Discovery, so I can't complain too much. Is the reason I wanted this show. Pike is the perfect captain, it seems. You know what I mean? Like, he seems almost too perfect. Like, Kirk was great, but he had his prejudices, and that's like a big thing to explore. Pike is like, sort of just like, no, we're over all that prejudice stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of feel like there could have been like a little bit of like, yeah, those wars were rough. My grandfather fought and I've always like heard stories. People are fearful, like you could have a little of that at the beginning, but instead they kind of want Pike to stay perfect. And I think that could be a little bit of an issue, if she was scared to tell Pike because she knows her friend has that prejudice, that would be different, it'd be a more interesting episode.
Yeah, I think that's an issue I've had with current Pike since, Discovery, because when they announced that he was coming, I was like, okay, well, that could be really cool. And they introduced like some faith issues, faith hangups and stuff that he had on Discovery. And that was a nice little wrinkle as well, because when you go back to the cage, he had all this stuff where like they alluded to the fact that he had hang-ups about faith because the Telosians basically made him think he was in hell for a second and drew that out of his mind, and even mentioned it like, oh, it's from a myth from your childhood or whatever, or from your culture. And then like one of the things that I really loved about Pike in the cage was that he didn't even want to be captain. He was sick of it. He was angry. He was tired of it. He was tired of choosing who lives and who dies.
Right.
And that is something that he struggles with because he's a solid dude, he doesn't like sending people to their death. So
remind me, is this pre-cage or post-cage? I know I've asked you that 3 or 4 times. Well,
all of that I just mentioned was in the cage.
Right. I'm sorry. That's the cage. I'm sorry. In the pilot. Episode, like where they're flashing back to, and
you're talking about the menagerie.
No, I'm sorry, the cage, the pilot.
Yeah,
where does that happen compared to what we're watching now on Strange New Worlds?
Oh, I got you. Several years before. So the cage happened several years before.
So he was already that guy who was tired of being captain. Back then. Okay.
He was already that guy, and I'm not saying he can't get over that stuff.
Sure. I even think we see a little bit of that in him with the, it's because of different reasons, but I think there's a little bit of that in him in that first episode.
I would agree with that. I do feel like they lean a little too heavily into he's a perfect captain, but we haven't gotten, it's episode 3.
Sure. Yeah. My favorite, commanding officer is, Captain Sisko. And because he's so flawed, and I
love a deeply flawed protagonist.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
My favorite show right now is Better Call Saul. What do you think?
I love Better Call Saul. Is it back? It's coming back. Soon.
It is absolutely back. It's already back. Like they just aired their mid-season finale.
Okay, great. I need to hop
And one of the things that they have done that I have just been in love with is, they have mapped out and shown us slivers of a mystery of what Saul and Kim are up to. And I'm just like, we haven't gotten the full plan. We see them working on the plan. We see them, exacting parts of the plan, and it's highly enjoyable.
Well, that's what they've been doing all year. They do stuff like that. I mean, all this entire series, they've done a great job of that, like laying in almost every episode will start with Jimmy doing something and then like finding out later, like what he was doing when he did that. It's great. And that's cool that they're doing the whole season.
Yeah. And they have tied up stuff that, we didn't even know we needed tied up.
That's awesome. I definitely am going to check it out. I've seen all the other seasons. I just haven't seen the season.
Yeah. Like they're calling back stuff from Breaking Bad.
Yeah. I knew that, supposedly they were, the 2 main guys were coming back, Jesse and Heisenberg.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, okay.
That hasn't happened yet.
Right. But I didn't know if you heard that. Sorry
Yeah,
if
I did hear that.
Okay.
I did. No. I knew it was happening. But yeah, like not a spoiler, but for the last couple seasons, like we've been following this guy Ignacio, and Lalo Salamanca.
Yeah.
And I had not even realized it until very recently. In Saul's first appearance on Breaking Bad, when they take him to the desert, he screams something about like it was Nacho, it was Lalo, like they never mentioned him again on Breaking Bad, and Vince Gilligan was like, we don't need to make Nacho and Lalo characters on Better Call Saul, and then he was like, thankfully, I was wrong. But it totally ties in.
Oh gosh, it's been so long. I thought that Nacho's the young guy they're following, right?
Yeah.
Isn't he the guy? This is a spoiler, I guess, for Breaking Bad, episode 3 or whatever. Isn't he the guy from the basement in Breaking Bad?
No.
Okay. I thought that they were some of the guys that he encounters in the first few episodes of Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad were some of the guys we've been following at some point.
No. Nacho and Lalo were both mentioned.
Just mentioned
by Saul when Jesse and Walt took him to the desert.
Okay.
And he was like throwing him under the bus.
Gotcha.
And he thought, did Lalo send you? Like,
I gotcha.
So like,
that's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
anyway,
I digress. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Yeah, man, this, I hope I have high hopes still. I have very high hopes for the show. I'm enjoying every episode. It's just, I'm enjoying every episode, but no episode so far has like hit me over the head with like glory. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Which completely different reaction. You know, I feel like people are going to come to our show and say, like, what are these guys about? I'll listen to this. And then they're like, there's people that don't like new Trek, quote unquote, new Trek. And I'm like, nope. Prodigy is the best thing that has been made in years. Like, I love Lower Decks. I love Prodigy. I
saw there's a Prodigy game coming out for like PS4 and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, saw it promoting some ad for it. It looks like some little strategy game. Star Trek games are generally bad. Just like poorly made games, generally.
Yeah, maybe.
I wish it wasn't true, but I always still enjoy them because I feel like I'm in the Star Trek world, you know, but yeah. It always feels like, and this is the way with most games that are based on IP, like they don't do a good job with the building of the game because it's just, people are going to buy it because it's IP, you know?
Right.
And I feel like that happens a lot with Star Trek games.
Yeah. There are people who love Star Trek Online. It's still going.
Sure. Yeah. I've played it a little bit.
I've never just never gotten to it.
Not my kind of game.
Yeah, it's not mine. I loved what was it? Star Trek Legacy, maybe the one when I played a lot when I lived with you on 360, and your girlfriend at the time was like, "This is the most boring thing in the world. Like all you guys are doing are just like flying around space and looking at the ships."
Yep. That sounds about right. Oh, I remember Star Trek Legacy. I did like Star Trek Legacy, and that simulator they did for VR, that Star Trek VR game from a couple years ago. I've got that, and it's pretty great. Just because you feel, you know, you literally are holding these controllers and reaching out and touching the pads and like, you know, turning up the things and like touch it, you know, and you can play on the different ships and stuff. It's really cool. Yeah, really well done,
dude. I really liked. I've liked several Star Trek games. I really liked Invasion for PlayStation, and that was basically like Colony Wars. Yeah, and I really liked Shattered Universe, which was a nice little mirror universe game that was kind of branching off of that.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was Star Trek Encounters for PS2. That one was pretty solid. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I
still even all those, even the ones I really like, I still play them, and I feel like this feels glitchy and cheap. Like it almost always feels a little glitchy and cheap. It still feels good because it's Star Trek and it's a game and I'm enjoying myself, but I still like look at it and I'm like, this doesn't look as good or play as smoothly as any like title that's just a game.
And you know what I think is Paramount has always done this thing where they take the cheap way out. Like, like they're freaking, they don't have Legos. Lego doesn't have the Star Trek license. Who does have the Star Trek license is some like weird Lego knockoff bullshit. I mean, it's like, and it's been that way forever. Like Paramount takes the absolute cheapest way out on Star Trek.
Yeah.
And it's maddening.
It's maddening because I feel like it's self-perpetuating, because I think the reason they do that is because I think Star Trek is admittedly a little more niche than Star Wars or Marvel or DC. Like, it's a little more niche, but like it doesn't have to be. Part of the reason it gets there is because like there's not great things to dive into and explore as much as there is on those other properties. Like those other properties often will spend the money to let me pretend like I'm Batman or let me pretend like I'm Spider-Man on PS5. And it's like AAA, best game you've ever played kind of stuff. And then I go to Star Trek and I'm like, I mean, it looks like the Enterprise, so that's cool. That's really it. And Spider-Man is like, man, I feel like I am Spider-Man.
Like I am naturally very cynical. So throwing aside quality in the actual content, I think Warner Brothers and Paramount have a great deal to learn from Disney, because way more than anything, like, you know, you can argue, it's subjective. You can argue that the Marvel movies haven't been good since whatever the hell, Endgame, whatever. A lot of people argue that. But these movies keep making so much money. But tell me another property. There are two properties that you see more advertising for: Star Wars and Marvel. They shove advertising down your throat. They make sure everybody knows these things are happening. These things are happening. And they get more eyes on them because of that. Warner Brothers and Paramount do not advertise. Like, I don't have TV. I don't see commercials. I have streaming platforms. I still see commercials for Star Wars. I see commercials for Marvel. Star Wars, Marvel, Star Wars, Marvel. I don't see anything for DC. I don't see anything for Star Trek.
Very rare. I do, but only because I'm on this streaming service that it's on.
Right.
Whatever, you know, like HBO Now will show me, like, hey, look, you can watch the Batman now. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Right.
Yeah. But it's just because it's on that service. I'm with you, man. And it's not just the money. It's also the way they do earned press. Disney is just killer at like the marketing train that happens on the way up to a thing, which like we've talked about this before, but it can really affect your opinion of a thing, how you're hyped for it. You know what I mean? Like, how prepared are you for the kind of show this is? And I feel like with Star Trek, like, unless you go and like read every, like we come to do the news all the time here on the show, and you'll read news, and I haven't heard any of it. I'm just like, oh, yeah, I haven't heard any of this. Like, I don't know what this show's even going to be like, because I haven't even heard these quotes from these producers. But like with Disney, like all the Marvel and Star Wars stuff, I get a good sense just by being in the world and having it marketed to me properly. Even like the way they drip news and surprises and like leaks and stuff. Like, oh, a leaked picture of this on the set. And you're like, oh shit, that might be in. And you get to start spinning ideas. And I just feel like Star Trek, and part of it, and it's still, well, this is what I'm saying. I guess I was going to say part of it is they have more money and they're bigger properties and more universal right now. But the reason that it's a chicken or egg thing. Those DC and Star Trek have the potential to be that way. They're just not being run the same way. They don't have the same machine of marketing, and they don't have the same amount of care and money put into them. And that's when you get the sort of disheveled, you know, I just feel like every time there's a DC movie, I see a leak of the suit looking terrible first. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just terrible. It's like, it has nothing to do with the art of the movie. It's never true to this film, but I always see that first, and I hear the internet complaining about it first. Like, the Shazam suit looks bad. The Aquaman suit looks bad. This suit, it's just every 2 years I'm hearing them complain about a different suit.
And we got a little bit of that with Marvel. I remember when the Avengers was filming, we got set leaks, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, this looks terrible! This looks oh my god!"
Right,
look at and then the movie was fine. Like, they don't look that way when you throw in special effects and you throw in CG, you know, whatever, and color grading, and it's not some asshole standing on a roof trying to like take a picture with his iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. But then of course, sometimes there's just product problems, like the mustache really did look that bad.
Yeah, it did.
You know?
yeah. But it just kills me because I've wanted Star Trek to have that level of marketing because, and I've talked to people about this, just normies who don't give a shit. And I'm like, man, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And they're like, oh man, everybody's hyped up for it. I've been seeing it on my Facebook all the time. I'm like, is it people being hyped? Or is it like advertising? Is it like Marvel putting it out? I mean, I don't know. I just keep seeing stuff about it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing is like people equate seeing it over and over again with hype.
For sure. That's something that there's a kind of marketing that I've been trying to learn about for my music. There's this company that kind of teaches this certain type of marketing. And it's basically just drip marketing. And because with Facebook, you can retarget people who've looked at your ads before. And so what you can do is you can become really famous in that guy's eyes because he just sees your stuff pop up on his page every couple days. Your band is in his feed. And then you eventually go like, oh yeah, I've heard of that band. I see them all the time. And like, by interacting with it, you trigger them to show it to them more. And because that's how Facebook retargeting works. It's genius marketing they can do, and they could do that with Star Trek.
I am a member of of Star Trek groups.
Me too.
I like the main pages. I never see anything about Star Trek on my Facebook feed.
Oh, that's a bummer. I do, but not a lot. Not news, not new stuff, not interesting pieces that are coming. Anyway, man, I need to get this thing edited. But it's good to cast with you this fine evening.
Yeah, I'm sorry we got off on a weird.
No, that's what we do. That's what we do. We talk about
marketing wrong.
Talk about the new episode for 30 minutes, and then we bitch about Paramount for 15.
Yeah. But I did overall enjoy this episode.
Oh yeah, me too.
It was a fun jaunt.
Yeah, and it didn't blaze any new ground. It felt very much like both these plots felt very much like original series plots. Like there's demons at the gate, and then it turns out they're just the colonists trying to protect you. And then there's some strange disease, and one person's immune, and they're running around the ship by themselves trying to solve it. We've seen these plots, you know, so many times on Star Trek. So it was good, but it didn't blaze any new trails for me, and didn't. It's building. Maybe, like I said earlier, maybe these are the vegetables. Maybe we're not enjoying. Maybe it's not hitting us over the head with how good it is because they're building the character exposition we need for later episodes that are going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and it might just be something. It might be a problem with us. Like honestly, we've been vaccinated with Star Trek our entire lives. We are now immune to it and its charms.
True.
I know you.
The problem is, so's the rest of society, because not only Star Trek, even if they've never seen Star Trek, they've seen other series like this that have been like built on Star Trek tropes. When I watched Lord of the Rings in theaters, they had big reveals. This army shows up at this moment, or this happened, and the entire time I was like, "Oh, that's about to happen." I've never read Lord of the Rings, and I was just like, I know all the plot points though, because everything after this is based on this. And so I'm watching it. And so none of the surprises could hit me. I always knew who was coming to save the day because they set it up, 4 chapters ago. And so it's kind of the same thing. Even if somebody's never seen Star Trek, they're still, unless they're just making the show for kind of younger people who've never gotten into this kind of TV before, which maybe.
Yeah. Which, you go over to TV Time and people are just like, they love this shit. It's like they've never seen an episode of TV in their life. So, it's that way with CW shows. It's that way with everything. Everybody like, oh, I can't believe this. They did this. I'm like, yeah, you love that 25-year-old weed joke that they made? Yeah. Okay.
Well, and it's the inherent problem with us as Star Trek podcasters, because if someone's seeking out a podcast to listen to about something, it's because they enjoy it. And we, while we normally enjoy it, are going to be critical of Star Trek because we have high standards for Star Trek. And so we love it so much, we want it to be at its best. And so we're going to talk about the good and the bad. And so honestly, most people who love Star Trek and are looking for someone to gush about this episode are going to find us and they're going to be like, these guys are jerks.
Yeah. We are also the worst because not only are we Star Trek fans, not only have we been inundated with this and predict everything that's happening, we're also creatives. We both write.
Yeah.
We think better ideas than the writers of the show. Like we're over here like they should have done this.
Sometimes it's easy in like retrospect or like 2020 vision hindsight because like you look at how the episode turns out and you go, well, there's clearly a path here that this could have been great. And I almost always have that every time an episode comes on. I'm like, this episode could have been great if they just had this thing happen. And it's like, maybe that wasn't clear in the script. Maybe it was after you get on set and you realize this person's there and that person, and maybe rewrite should happen. I don't know. It just seems like often they just like miss glaring character moments that I'm just sad aren't there.
Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. I absolutely loved that everyone was like turning up the lights and like the strange. Yeah. That I loved like the lengths they go to.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I love that they were like, they had like a hologram of a sun in Uhura's quarters, and they were just like, I love that the dude smashed his head through that pane of glass.
And then, of course, the most extreme Himmer beaming part of a sun or trying to materialize part of a sun inside the transporter.
No, it was the planet's core.
Oh, that's what it was.
That's what it was.
Trying to beam the planet's core into the transporter room.
She was like, "This 1,000 degrees, it'll kill you." He's like, "Yes, and in a moment it'll be on my skin." Like, that was the most original series thing I have seen.
Oh, for sure,
in years.
That's the thing. This whole episode feels super original series. Like, what are we like? It doesn't bother with trying to make the science super legit. It's just like it's a disease riding on beams of light. Yeah. By the way, Spock's brain is in a jar. Like, it just whatever. Like, it just feels very original series, and I do dig that a lot. I did
enjoy that quite a bit.
Yeah,
like that's one of the things I love that Star Trek does. Like, it's already very like there's a whole group of people who love to think like, well, this is Star Trek. This needs to be super scientific. Star Trek has always been fantasy more than science fiction. Yeah. So to me, if you look back at the history of it,
there's a lot of fantasy. They use science to sort of explain away all the fantasy, but there's definitely fantastical elements to it.
And I feel like Star Trek lost a lot of that over the years. And I like seeing it come back to that, like, what the hell is this? Like, we've never, like, just bizarre shit.
Yeah,
like
strange new worlds, my friend.
Right. So,
I dig that. I dig that.
Wanted to get in at least one thing I really enjoyed.
Hopefully.
Even though I like the episode.
No. I definitely didn't mind the episode, but it's a big part of what I like to do with podcasts is like talk about why something works or doesn't, and like why this makes me feel the way it does. So I love talking about this stuff, and like then looking for how are they going to course correct. Are they going to continue to bang their heads into that same trope that's not working, We'll see. We will see.
Yep. We'll see.
Joe Untrue, my friend.
Sir, I want you to live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.